of the Clear Access, Clear Waters campaign is also about protecting the places that we paddle. And as paddlers, you know, we are so passionate about the environment. In 2020 alone, there was almost 1,000 large sacks of plastic pollution and junk pulled from our waterways. And this is, I don't know if everyone can see that. These are the sizes of the sacks. These are really big sacks. So it just shows what you know, how firstly what an issue there is with pollution in the rivers, but it also shows that, you know, what a great asset paddlers are, literally being the eyes on the rivers and the guardians, if you like, of the rivers. These were 1,000 sacks that were registered on the Clear Access, Clear Waters website. We know there are a lot more paddle cleanups actually happening. So what would be really helpful to support the campaign would be, you know, if you're out doing a paddle cleanup, you know, if you're picking up 1 or 2 bags of plastic, then please do take the time to go on the Clear Access, Clear Waters website on the paddle cleanup section, and just fill in your details. Because we are talking to DEFRA about access on water, about plastic pollution, and they are interested to know how, you know, the scale of the issue, but also the good work that paddlers are doing. So we can showcase, you know, how many hours of time paddlers are committing to actually improving our waterways. We've got involved previously in the national campaigns, Surfers Against Sewage. Again, this is great because it builds into that bigger picture, and it really raises the profile of all the great things that paddlers are actually getting involved with. And it's also led, as we actually put in as part of the Environment Bill, we supported other organisations on a submission around plastic waste, about the government having targets on reducing avoidable plastic waste. So I'm not sure how many people are doing paddle cleanups. If any of you would like any support at all on that, on how to get involved, we've launched a little bit of a toolkit on the Clear Access, Clear Waters website. So it gives you details of risk assessments, it gives you details of the kind of kit that you would actually need to carry out a cleanup, which essentially is a picker, some gloves, and some bags, and obviously the hand sanitizer. And obviously really keen for people to get involved with that. We're also looking at doing some work with the Rivers Trust. The Rivers Trust have just got some European funding, and they've actually got 4 locations in England where they're going to be doing some studying of the paddle cleanups and then the kinds of plastics that come out, and that will feed into a European project to have a look at the pollution and where it's finishing up. Because I think on the plastic pollution side of things, there is a big story around how all of the plastic pollution gets carried out to sea, which we know that a lot of it does, but equally there's a lot of it that actually gets caught up in the sediment of rivers. And we don't fully understand what the impact of that is on both the wildlife and the species that live in the river, but even on human health, on our own health, what that impact is. So yeah, another area which is absolutely great to get involved with. If you need any details on that, how to get involved, then please do just drop me a line. These 2 are on the River Trent. As you can see, they've just pulled out a sand pit and a load of other junk. We find all sorts on these paddle cleanups. I'm sure if you've done them, you've probably found it. We've had Christmas trees. That there's the bar stool on the photo that I sent you that was on the River Derwent. It is really sad, and again this feeds into that whole access agenda, if you like, because if we had access on the rivers, we could do more to pull out more of this junk and protect the places that we paddle. We know that as paddlers, we can get into places where other people can't. More so in a kayak, if you like. It's great having the big open canoes because they're almost like the dumping truck, if you like, where you can pile your sacks in. But if you go in a kayak, and you can really get into the bushes and retrieve all sorts. And as we all know with plastic, you know, it's having huge impacts, and it just lasts forever. It will just break down and just cause untold damage.
May I ask?
Yeah.
What about when you talk about river cleanup with general plastics, waste, etc.? You also considered the major issue, and pardon the pun, but invasive issue of Himalayan balsam destroying the riverbanks.
Yeah, I'm just coming on to the invasives now, actually, but we've not had.
Sure.
Rich tends to deal a lot on the invasive side of things. Who I work with, I tend to focus a lot of it at the present time on the floating pennywort, because obviously the floating pennywort it's pretty much paddlers who are really involved in actually getting that out because it's on the water. That said, I know that there are a lot of paddlers also involved in that Himalayan balsam pulling as well. So the invasive non-native species, yeah, in 2018 the estimated cost of the UK economy was over £2 billion. So it's huge sums of money, and paddlers, you know, across the country are getting involved in managing and removing invasive species. We're doing a lot of work as well at the policy side of things. We fed into the Environmental Audit Committee in 2018, and we're actively part of the National Floating Pennywort Strategy group, working really closely with DEFRA on a funded post actually on the River Thames to actually manage floating pennywort. So that will be a new post advertised shortly. And there's also the availability of signage. Obviously, check, clean, drying everything is a really important message. So that we don't spread any invasive species. And I know that Rich, who is working on this, has said to me, you know, there is signage available. So if anyone is interested in signage at any centres or clubs where paddling's taking place, then again, just drop me a line on the email and I can let you have details of that. But yeah, on a community level, again, it's showcasing the importance of paddlers on water. So Whoosh Explore Canoe Club, and Andy G was one of our Clear Access Clear Waters champions actually, and he's absolutely on a mission, and I think he pretty much has eradicated floating pennywort from the River Stort. He absolutely leads the way with his brother, his twin brother actually, Stuart, on the Stort. And this was a mill stream that they were involved with clearing, and you can see on the left hand side you just absolutely couldn't get through it at all. Floating pennywort can grow up to 20 centimeters a day, you know, in its peak growing season, and you can just see the impact that they've had. They've just removed all of that. And in that bottom photo, if you can spot the boat, it's actually in there. That's how much pennywort there is piled on that. What I must say on that floating pennywort side of things is, even if the smallest of fragment comes off, it can float off downstream and it will regrow from that. So it's really important to have some training on it, on obviously identifying it, but also removal. And we'd also always recommend, like Whoosh Explore have, to get involved with the Environment Agency, with the Canal and Rivers Trust, your local Rivers Trust on that side of things, to make sure that it's managed in a way that's fitting in with any management plans they've got in place. We're hopefully going to be doing some in Lincoln soon. Actually, we're going to be going out to do some surveying. I think it was November time, and I think we went into another semi kind of period where we couldn't go out in larger numbers. So we're hoping to go out once this lockdown lifts a little bit and start to map out where the floating pennywort is, and then we'll start to do some removal in the Lincoln area, because I know we've got some in the Upper Witham in Lincoln. And I think you know, it was Andy G actually at Wush's who said to me about COVID being a friend to floating pennywort, because we've just not been able to get out on the water as much. You know, we've had to be careful with volunteers. So I think there's a lot of volunteers out there who are really keen to go out and get the floating pennywort out of our waterways. But again, it's really showcasing how paddlers can get involved. And with floating pennywort, you do have to be pretty much on the water to remove it. I don't know if anybody's having the tea for this next one, but you may want to look away. So I've started getting involved more on the water quality side of things. This is the River Derwent in Derbyshire. You can see there's a panty liner there hanging from the branch, which isn't really what you want to encounter when you're out paddling with your kids, or paddling on your own, really, to be honest. I've done a clean-up, I've done a paddle clean-up actually in Matlock Bath with the Paddle Peak team. And it was just after they'd had the floods in Matlock, and the waters have been really high. And as you were paddling along, pulling out plastic pollution, you looked up and the trees, it just looked like, when I was a child, I used to throw cotton wool onto the Christmas trees to make it look like snow. It looked like someone had done that to the bushes all the way along the River Derwent. And it obviously was, it wasn't that, it was obviously with the floods or the combined sewer overflows had just discharged to stop everything backing up into properties. And it was obviously everything that had been flushed down the toilet had then got entangled in the trees. So I've actually responded recently to an audit committee around water quality and sewage pollution. In 2019, raw sewage was actually discharged in our UK rivers 200,000 times. It's a lot of times, and a lot of people don't realise that this is happening. We've doing some work with Surfers Against Sewage and the Rivers Trust. We've joined the End Sewage Pollution Coalition, which is led by Surfers Against Sewage on this, to really stop this from happening, basically, and look at solutions. And I think one of the issues with it on the inland waterways is there's no monitoring that's taking place. There's no way of knowing when you're going paddling whether a CSO is actually discharging or not. The Rivers Trust have actually got quite a helpful map on their website where you can actually see where all the CSOs are. So if you're paddling or if you're swimming, I enjoy doing some river swimming, then you can actually see where they're located. And I kind of sometimes feel that if it's been a lot of heavy rain, then I'm just careful, particularly where I swim. I guess if you're paddling, obviously, you don't tend to be in the water. That said, if you're out with kids and paddle boards, all they want to do is jump off the things and swim all the time. So you may have seen that we've actually put details about Philip Dunn's Sewage Inland Waters Bill. That's actually a private members bill. We are asking paddlers to support that where you can. That's asking for a duty to be put on water companies to ensure that sewage is no longer discharged into inland waters, to reduce the reliance on the combined sewer overflows, and to increase that transparency for the public, to report on the number, the condition and the length of those and time of those discharges, and to have targets on bathing waters. And then, yes, of course, there was a recent inquiry into water quality where we'd put a response in. So it's something where we're starting to get more and more anecdotal evidence, if you like, paddlers sending us emails to say, you know, hey, I've been paddling in here and it wasn't great, can you do something about it? So it's really good to be part of the End Sewage Pollution Coalition and to be able to feed into that from a paddler's perspective. And at the present time, we are kind of starting to look at some of those paddle hotspots, if you like, where we think there may be issues and where we would like to see the water companies putting some real-time monitoring information on those CSOs. And I think that will be a really helpful first step, because obviously if you at the present time you can't make an informed decision, whereas at least if we start to have that information, it gives you a bit more power and that you can decide where and when to paddle. So is there any questions on the environmental side of things?
Yep, John's got a rubbish question. Oh, sorry. So John's got a question about rubbish. I must read my writing a little bit better. John.
My question's always rubbish. That's why I'm here. Somebody's got to lower the tone down to, you know, us basic types and all that kind of thing. No, in all seriousness, has there been any consultation with local authorities, etc., are we rubbish? You know, I'm not talking about, you know, taking out a few tins, an odd bag here or there. If you do a kind of a large cleanup, which I've been involved with on a local river, you've then got the sudden problem of what to do with all of that waste. I'm talking shopping trolleys, beer barrels, that kind of stuff. And if you try and, from experience, take a beer barrel to a local recycling centre, 9 times out of 10 they won't take it, because the question is, where have you got it from? You know, and if you're, you know, we've done a good thing here, and then all of a sudden you've then got a problem with a load of stuff that you potentially can't get rid of. Contacting the local council allowed us to then kind of get rid of all this stuff, but it wasn't as painless as it could be, or potentially could be, from a volunteer's point of view. So I don't know whether there's any, you know, good work, but extra stuff. Maybe it's a problem that we encountered that others aren't, but no,
yeah, it has got flagged up before, and I think that goes back to that whole, it's building those relationships within the local communities. And I think in a lot of areas there's a lot of litter picking groups getting set up on Facebook groups, and I think it's connecting with those and working together to put that pressure on your local authority. It would normally be your district council, to get those arrangements in place. In Lincoln, we're quite lucky, if you like, in that our canoe club's actually based on the university campus, so I always have an arrangement with the university. But that said, the last time we got so much junk out of there, I was kind of fed it in over a couple of weeks or so, because there was so much. It was off the back of one of the lockdowns and we hadn't been able to get out as much. I think yeah, councillor staff in the waste department at your district council, and if not, then talk to your local member, whether it's probably it'll be your local district councillor would probably be your best bet to start to feed those conversations.
Yeah, no, it was yeah, and that's kind of exactly where we ended up going. I don't know, I was sort of thinking as you were talking, literally, you know, could there be some sort of official quote unquote British Canoeing email, you know, from somebody like yourself saying, look, you know, these things are potentially going to happen in various areas, please be aware that you may be contacted, and you know, and front load that kind of conversation or put it into their mind. It was just a
yeah,
thought,
I mean, we could draft something, but it would probably be better coming out at that local level, because there's so many different tiers in different authorities, with offices changing all the time. It would be hard to get it out to the right person. But if you needed any supportive email, then obviously more than happy to do
useful
that.
Useful to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, got another question from John Chuan.
As I understand it, reading in newspapers and so on, most of the environmental bills are being delayed until 2021. What sort of impact is that going to have on the environment?
I think that is some of the feedback that we've had too, John, that things are starting to get delayed. I don't have the answer for you on that impact on that national level. I don't know whether they will speed things up later on through the process as those bills are actually going through. I think as paddlers, all we can do is, as soon as we're able to, when it's safe to do so, is to pick up that volunteering side of things and to really, get stuck in, if you like, with the cleanups. I know I will be in Lincoln. I know I've not been able to get out actually during this lockdown, but I know some of them that who have their own boats, who have been out. I know that they've been doing a bit of litter picking, but I do kind of wonder what's going to be out there after this when we do go.
The other thing is that when you look at the policies, there's inconsistencies in it. In several of them. So there's grants going towards providing fish where they can leap up the weirs and so on. And then you've got the inland sewerage thing, which it sort of piles out when there's floods going on. And that has an effect on the fish themselves who are going upstream, to breed. So it's like I said, there seems to be inconsistencies in the policies itself. Is anyone actually challenging those?
We're feeding in where we can on those areas that we're looking at. It's there's so much happening at the moment. We have to focus on the key areas where our capacity allows, if you like. We're a team of 3, so we're trying to be across what we can. We're doing a lot of partnership work with other organisations to be across a wider range of that. But it obviously takes a lot of time.
Thank you. Mark Yan has volunteered to drink the water to test the water quality, but obviously he can't get around all the waterways. So he's got a question about water quality.
Yeah, hello. So long it is a beer brewery who spills it in, I don't mind. Yeah, the quality of the water, is there a way of testing it? Because there's quite of sediments coming in, like the sea. They have the blue, how's it called, flag for swimming water area things. Is there anything we can do, measure the water with like pH strips or something to find out if the water is a different in the water, so we can say this is maybe a way to check this stretch of water where we're paddling on?
Well, I think what Ilkley actually had bathing water status awarded. That's one of the first inland rivers in England to be awarded, and I think their testing is meant to start this year. So I think there'll be a lot of lessons that we learn from that status, and how that's taken forward with the testing of what's actually in the water, because obviously when it's bathing water status, they test for more. But I think, yeah, it's a really key point and something really important that we need to understand more about what is actually in the water. So I think off the back of Ilkley, I seem to think there's a few others that have applied for bathing water status. So I think we will start to learn over the next, few months as we start to see some of that data.
Lovely, thank you. Dee, you've got a question?
Yeah, it really kind of follows on from what Mark Ann's just been talking about, is kind of the water quality. And one of the things I've kind of noticed just at the weekend was our lovely farmers had put lots of muck on the fields, and the rain came down and fetched it all into the river. So we had lovely plumes of brown on what is normally a beautiful clean water river. So is there a way that can be shared on the kind of campaign page about how to report these things? Because obviously there's only 3 of you guys. We can't all keep coming into you. We've got to be able to self-help sometimes. Because I mean, the only thing I could do was report it to these open water swimming groups that I knew were meeting downstream. Back to Mark's point, I didn't particularly want them to be finding it when they're diving in. So yeah, if there's something like that that could be kind of shared, that would be really good.
I wonder whether the Environment Agency put anything out on their feeds I imagine that would probably be
yeah, I think
the right place. I'm just thinking because we had
kind of powers in it, but it's just kind of getting those common questions, isn't it? And
yeah,
in it so we can get quick links, because I think a lot of us probably come across the same things and scratch our heads wondering how to do it. So if that sort of thing could be shared, that'd be really good.
I was just thinking because we had an incident in Lincoln where we paddled down and there was some dead fish floating down, which obviously wasn't a great sign. And that went through to the Environment Agency on their helpline. So I think it would then go out on their social media, but I can just get some clarity on that and just come back to you. And yeah, like you say, that would be really helpful then for us to have that information out there so that people know what to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Carroll's helped us out a little bit. He's put a link in to the Environment Agency reporting hotline, which is perfect. I mean, I know it's in the chat. I know we had a problem locally. We've got a lovely little river, the River Lug, and that had very high levels of phosphates. And I know that the local parish councils were really, upset about it because they've got quite a few fishermen on the parish councils, but they were worried about the water quality. Nothing happened, but there we go. I've got a question for you. Obviously, I'm going to be careful how I word this question, Chantelle, really, is because this is recorded. There's as Dee has just said, there's lots of work for three of you to do, and I'm not going to ask you to turn around and say the British Canoeing should double the number of people in your department. I'm going to ask the same question in a different way. Would we get more progress if British Canoeing invested more money into clear access and clear water?
Oh, you've put me on the spot there, Dave. I think what I'll say is I think there's a lot of organisations like the Ramblers, like the British Horse Society, who have a dedicated army of volunteers who absolutely are very passionate about the campaign, and they are supported by the Ramblers, like we support our volunteers on taking the campaigns forward. COVID has, we launched in 2018, and COVID has been it's been obviously horrendous, on a lot of levels. It's kind of disrupted our volunteer program, if you like, and it is very much on my radar to engage with volunteers. We know we have lots of passionate people who are passionate in these areas. I myself was on furlough a lot, part of last year, again this year, but absolutely keen to get out there to meet clubs, to meet paddlers, and to provide that support, because I think there is a lot of passionate people out there who do want to get involved and do their bit. And I enjoy doing it as a volunteer at Lincoln on my local waterways, doing all the paddle cleanups and getting involved in the invasive side of things.
Maybe that's something as paddlers we need to get onto the next president about. And as we've got a 25% rise in membership, then it makes sense that the departments go up by 25% and see that money spent in improving our access into clear waters. There we go. That's my future with British Canoeing well and truly destroyed. Any more questions, anybody? We got comments. No, it's just comments, mainly slating me, so that's fine. Okay.
Can I just have an ask again,
real quick
Chantelle?
one then, Graham.
Thank you. Are you doing any work, any connections with the National Trust? I'm sure a lot of their land goes down onto the waterways.
Yeah, we have done some work with the National Trust, actually. One of their northern locations, I can't quite think what it was called. We did some work with a launch platform there, and like a check, clean, dry station as well with them. So we do work with the National Trust, yeah, and yeah, we do. There's a lot that we are really keen to work with a lot of landowners with this Canoe Foundation funding, and like I say, this current closing date is the end of this month, but I imagine there will be another opportunity landowners to engage with that. So if if you are out and about and you've got a favourite launch spot and the landowner is really very much on board with that, then there is that opportunity for that funding. The grants are usually in the range of probably about £6,000 ish. So it's a reasonable amount to get quite a nice launch platform installed.
Sorry, sorry, I just wanted to add on to that. I do voluntary work with the National Trust, and I've actually changed a couple of the voluntary expenses procedures, which was blocking a lot of good work taking place, should we say. So, and that's based here in Bristol. So again, would I just direct them to British Canoeing? Pardon my ignorance and naivety. Who would I tell them to contact in relation to the sort of Bristol area, as it were?
The National Trust. So Graham, you're just on mute still.
But yeah, I'll go and have a chat with them up at Tintsfield, which is now basically, I believe Tintsfield, some people Tintersfield, but it's Tintsfield estate is now the flagship estate, I believe, for the southwest of England. So like almost that become the head office. So if it's in Swindon, but as an actual visitors attraction, if I go and have a chat with them, who would I signpost them to? If I said, with regards to their, as we say, their land, which covers the rivers, who would I need
in hosting a launch platform?
Well, yeah, I'll get them interested. To be honest with you, but who do I direct them to?
If you want to put them through to me initially, that would be fine. And then
excuse. I just to explain. I'm 48 and I've got like dementia, so I forget things in seconds. So Chantelle, isn't it?
Yeah.
What organisation are you, Chantelle?
British Canoeing.
It's British Canoeing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Dave put my email address on at the beginning of the chat, Graham. So if you can just pick it up from there, and they may already be in touch, with Ben and Rich in the team. But I'm happy for you to put them through to me in that first instance, and I can then put that link in with the Canoe Foundation for them.
Okay, thank you ever so much, everybody. It's been a really good chat tonight. Thank you, Chantelle.
This was a With Dave production.